makes all them places go. Say welcome to the Ernest Bigot Show. Middle initial K once, not
3 times, fool.
First off, on the question as to whether or not we should have reparations for descendants of slaves, Ernest Bigot states an emphatic yes. Now, before I add a minor little addendum to this, I do have a few questions for y'all. Firstly, who all is going to be getting the money? Is it going to be all Black American citizens? Like, let's say your parents are dark as night, but they immigrated here in the 1950s. Would you think it'd be unfair if y'all just received a smaller Jim Crow stipend? Or say, what if they came over here, if you came over here in the year 1990? Should you just be entitled to a smaller, lighter dusting of systemic oppression bucks? What, say, if you are in fact descended from slaves all the way back in 1619, but over the course of time, your families developed lighter skin attributes? Like, for example, let's say that you've got black skin, but light blue eyes. Which, by the way, I gotta say is a real beautiful combination, representing true diversity. So in this here case, I don't think it's unfair to consider the fact that the oppression narrative might be slightly diluted. Should you get less than a full-on Black American citizen? I think these are important questions, and remember, I'm just asking. Question number 2, who should be forced to pay out the money? Take, for example, American citizens, the Indian tribes who were here long before any of us, who unfortunately as a group aren't doing so well. Sure, they have the right to scalp the money from the population at large in their casinos, but should they then be forced to pay out reparations for former slaves and Black people as a whole? And not to get too personal, but what about the Bigot family? I know y'all call me Bigot, but the name is French and it's pronounced Bigot, and we didn't have a single ancestor in America pre-Civil War. You might argue I would have liked to join in the economic benefits of having owned slaves and benefiting from their labor, but I didn't, and none of my family did. But factually, also, it was a very small subset of America which did even at that time. So my question is, what exactly did me or anyone in my family do to deserve this forced drain on our bank accounts? Fair question, isn't it? Question number 3. If I identify as Black, can I get my share? So if reparations pass, I imagine a substantial number of those advocating for it are the same that will tell you on social media that gender is merely a social construct. And thus, a man can, by leftist law, it's written down, identify as a woman and vice versa. Therefore, according to this logic, can a Chinese man identify as Black and get his piece of the handout? What about Jews? Or is the most truly oppressed minority doing too well to qualify for gender/racial fluidity? And let's say that some of the crazier people out there state that you cannot legally identify as another race. Well, here is the truth. My 23andMe test stated that I have in excess of 1% West African blood. That is a greater percentage than Elizabeth Warren has Native American that she used to derive benefits. like getting a job at Harvard and having them brag about having a staff person or being a woman of color.
Race matters, and we need to say so.
Well then, hey, what about my piece, your piece of the handout pie? At what percentage does one qualify for this black privilege? I certainly believe it's a fair question. Question number 4. Is affirmative action considered to be a down payment? If a member of your family has benefited from affirmative action to get into a school that they otherwise weren't qualified for, I'm looking at you, Elizabeth Warren, couldn't you say you were already paid out? In that case, wouldn't it be a bit greedy on your part to reach into the till for a second helping? I'm just asking a question here. Don't get mad at me. Point number 5. You are aware that nearly the whole world has had slaves. I think we can all agree that slavery was a horrible practice that thankfully humanity has almost entirely grown out of, with the exception of the Islamic world. Most of Europe's had serfs toiling in the fields. Slavery existed in North and South America amongst a high percentage of Indian tribes. China had slaves. Africa had slaves all over the place. Tribal conquest brought slaves to the victors all over the planet. The Islamic world still has slaves today, as many of the conservatives / Salafists of the religion still actually argue in favor of it. This is because their prophet was deemed to be the perfect man whose life should be emulated and imitated in every way, and he had plenty of slaves. Hell, aside of regions still controlled by ISIS, you can go on over to Libya and actually buy a black African slave. So, if any of y'all racists out there are feeling nostalgic and want to reinvigorate the practice of having slaves, move on over to Libya or ISIS-controlled regions of the world. Maybe Pakistan. Believe me, I'm not in favor of this at all. So when people tell me just how racist and oppressive America is today, I just laugh. Y'all don't know real oppression. You haven't been close to it. I don't mean to be a bigot and rain on your pity party, but shouldn't this be something to be thankful for? Again, it's just posing a question for y'all. Point number 6. Would this be the last we hear about racism? Now, let's say that we are able to identify the descendants of former slaves, and we give in to the leftist demands and take a few $1,000s out of my bank account, out of your bank account, and zap it on into theirs. Do you think that this will end the racial debate? Do you think that they'll come back and they say, you know what, you honky white cracker? We cool now. You done your bit. Or do you think that they'll see that they had success and go back to the well of white tyrannical patriarchy and attempt to extract more out? And if I was a rapper, do you think that you could upgrade me from cracker to MC Saltine? I sure would appreciate it. Question number 7. What about the Nigerians? If oppression and past injustices in America are still responsible for the lack of success amongst Black America, then why do first and second generation immigrants from Nigeria and the West Indies, by the way, come over here and kick ass? In 2018, 29% of Nigerian Americans over the age of 25 held onto a graduate degree, compared to 11% of the overall U.S. population. Further, Nigerian Americans outpaced the median household income by $5,000. Now, presumably they came over here seeking a better life. It appears that it has been found, and good on them. But then why is the systemic racism that I hear tons about, why wasn't it deployed upon them and kept them on down? Seems as though they managed to slip through the cracks. And if America was a truly racist place, we wouldn't have let this happen. Have you ever noticed also that people that eat nothing but fast food have a hard time slipping through cracks? Random question, I guess. Look here, I realize that some of y'all out there might think that I'm quibbling a bit and that I'm not firmly, as I stated at the beginning, in support. I will restate that I, Ernest Bigot, am firmly in favor of reparations in America. So, let's break down the mechanics of it, which is why I pose these here questions, to determine the proper way to go about doing this. Here is who should be paying the reparations. Anyone alive today who ever has had or currently still does own slaves. Here is who should be receiving these reparations. Anyone who ever was or is still today a slave in the United States. So tell me in the comment section below whether or not y'all think this is fair. And remember, I'm just asking. And that's all I got to say about that.
Hey y'all, I'm not really a bigot. I just play one on TV. So thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, subscribe and share this video.